Hello, I'm the Steel Puffin, and today I thought I'd do something interesting, so I'm going to start a series. Now, it's not on a game, it's not about a game, it's not anything to do with that. Actually, it's just talking about my opinion on things. And for that reason, I'm going to call it very simply, My Opinion On. Now, the first episode, which is this, is my opinion on homework. How it varies across the world. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And people's opinions on it. So, without further ado, my opinion on homework. Homework is a complicated situation. Some think that it is great. Some think that it's a crime against humankind. However, most people have it. But here's something interesting. Now, I can't remember, but I think it's Sweden. Most children either get very little or they get none at all, no homework. And I find this interesting because Sweden has exceedingly high exam results. Here's something else that's interesting. They also have shorter school days than most people in England or America or wherever it so happens to be. Yet there is one thing they excel at above most other countries, and that is quality of teaching. Now, I go to a very good school, and I'm not saying that my school is bad whatsoever, even though they won't be able to read this. They won't be watching this. But generally, I think that if you have... It's like that saying, if you work well, you'll never work a day in your life. However, if you have a horrible job, then of course, you're constantly going to be bored. Never have any fun. And it doesn't matter how much money you make, because at the end of the day, you'll be tired and sad. That's why I do this. I mean, I'm not doing it for money. God knows. I mean, about, what, 100 people maximum are going to watch this. So, yeah. Getting back to quality of teaching, I've had some really good teachers. And coming on from that point, if you work a day in your life, if you have a good job, yada yada. If you have a good teacher, lessons will be fun and they will drive you to keep learning. And that's what lessons should do. If you have a great teacher, you will want to keep learning. That's how you know you have a good teacher. But if you don't have a good teacher, well then you'll be stuck learning. For example, me, I remember having a really, really dull history teacher when I first joined my old school. It's so dull. They used to just list dates, remember these dates, and that was it. Then when I switched schools, which I did which I did in year 8, something interesting happened. I had a history teacher called Mr. Doherty. For those of you who go to my school and are watching my videos because of that, A, thank you. B, you know Mr. Doherty is very strict, and I'm telling you, for those who don't, obviously, that he is very strict. However, he is also very, very nice. And he teaches in such a way that it keeps you entertained, it keeps you stimulated, and you always want to keep learning more about history. Now, the thing is, the reason he is a very good teacher is because he doesn't just list dates, he actually tells you what happened. For instance, this term, we were doing the things with America and the slave trade, and he could have just kept it very boring, but he's talking about modern situations and how racism is still affecting us now and what bad things have happened. Same with my old geography teacher. At my last school, she was okay. She was fairly good, and she looks out for me constantly. I don't think she was a bad teacher. However, the geography teacher at my new school, I've had two, and they've both been excellent. They've kept me interested, and that's the most important thing. If you keep a child interested in what you're teaching, then they will want to pay attention. If you talk about interesting things, now I know, and it's obviously part of curriculum, you have to do dull stuff sometimes. However, you have to not make interesting stuff dull by just mindlessly listing it, but just mindlessly listing it off in the same format you've been told to teach it. Because if you're doing that, then it's just stupid. What do you expect the children to do? They'll barely be entertained by it, and they won't be entertained. And the information won't sink in. They might remember enough for the exam, but then they'll just instantly forget it, because there's no reason to remember it. There's no motive. You just don't find it interesting learning it the first time, and then therefore there's no reason to learn it. That was an unfortunate kill. Yeah, there's no reason to learn it apart from to pass a random exam that, let's face it, you don't really care about. But when you have a truly good teacher, they will make sure that you remember everything you need to, that you keep and they will do that through making the lessons interesting, because you will remember it if it's interesting. Because interesting stuff is easiest to remember. Interesting stuff is easy to remember because you're automatically inclined to remember it. For instance, you don't remember all those dull bits of the trip to Disneyland, like the queue for the queuing to go into the onto the ride. You remember going onto the ride and having fun, and you should, because that is the fun part, and it just helps you remember. On the whole, I think that it's very complicated, and you can't really blame teachers for being boring since they're not paid anything, and it is more than a hard-working environment. But overall, just with your teachers, try to be forgiving, and remember that they are getting paid nothing for this job. It is very unlikely that they're just doing it to punish children. They make up a huge portion of jobs. Huge. Jobs in education are, I think, something 11 to 21% of jobs are in education. And that's a very important number, because without that, we wouldn't be here. We have to learn, somehow, we have to learn how to do maths. We have to learn how to speak English. We have to learn how to do all these things. And they're the people who teach us. So at the end of the day, it's not their fault, really. Blame the curriculum if your teacher's teaching something boring. Or if they are a boring teacher, then just don't go up to them and be like, "Oh mate, that lesson was awful. I didn't learn anything. You's just listing off facts, mate. Honestly, I mean, mate, that was terrible. Don't act like that, because A, he'll just think you're an idiot, or she, or whatever. And B, they won't listen to you. If you're kind about it, and if you're nice, and you're just like, sir, I'm really sorry, but I can't remember the lesson. Could you jazz it up a little? I don't know. Then I'll probably listen to you. It's not that hard to just be nice, because they're clearly not doing this for themselves. They're doing this for you. And at the end of the day, remember that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one.